And the boat licensing stuff, I will just go over it basically so it gives you a general idea if you're thinking about a license or what's involved. Like I say, take it with a pinch of salt because things get changed, things get updated. Licenses also vary. There are several different types of license depending on what sort of boat you've got and what kind of fishing you intend doing. Now, when it comes to license, what is a license? A license basically allows you to sell fish legally. That's pretty much it. Now, if you've got a boat that doesn't have an engine, like a sailboat, as far as I know, you don't need a license. But anything that's like any kind of motorboat that you're fishing and you intend to sell any of your catch, you need a license. Now, what sort of licenses are there? Well, you get various licenses. I think there's certain licenses which relate to sort of like trawlers, netters, that kind of thing. But generally, for a small boat, you get a wet fish license. This allows you to catch, obviously, wet fish, you know, pollock, bass, flatfish, whatever, that kind of thing. There are certain restrictions on some fish on how much you can catch. So you have a limit of how much weight of fish you can catch per month. So like bass, I know at one point it was around 200 kilos for a small boat or a certain license for a small boat. Now, these things change, obviously. They go up and down depending on what the scientists say on how much you're allowed to catch. And to be honest, quite often with a small boat, especially like mine, you don't get to those limits. I mean, it's good you've got those limits because, you know, it might be one month you just suddenly have the most amazing month ever, but it's very rare and generally you don't reach those limits. Now, with a wet fish license, you can also take crab and lobsters, but it's classed as bycatch, so you can take like 20 crab a day or something like that. So if you're fishing a lot and you know, like me, I don't take 20 crab a day. I don't even get close to 20 crab a day. You know, it's I'd probably land that in a week. So yeah, so for a small boat like mine, those sort of licenses are ideal. If you intend to go out with 100 pots or something like that, or 200 pots or something, then you're going to need another license, which is a shellfish license, and it's like a bolt-on that goes on to the other license. This allows you to catch shellfish as well. Unfortunately, these licenses, because you have like a small boat, has to be diverse and catch everything, not just target one species or one type of fishing. It makes it very expensive for a small boat. They should make a license that covers small boats, little boats, to be sustainable, diverse, and catch a little bit of everything, instead of forcing those small boats to have to buy bolt-on licenses all the time to, you know, which makes it very expensive. I mean, if you're, say, a potting boat, you only need the shellfish license, really. And if you're a trawler, then you don't need you need a wet fish license. But if you're a small boat that needs to catch a little bit of everything to survive, then you've got to get more licenses. So it's a bit of a screwed up system as far as I'm concerned. But that's my own just personal opinion on that. We're not going to go any further into that because I'll go off on one of some of these things, especially some of these rules and regulations which were never designed for small boats. So there's those kind of licenses, and I think there's other licenses for sort of trawlers, and there's a maximum like with dredges and things. But these licenses all vary, and they'll also vary depending on what area you are in. A bit like size limits and that. You'll have certain size limits for certain areas, that kind of thing. Now, what does a license cost? Well, a license for the boat, for my boat, is a 16-foot boat and it has a 10-horse outboard. The engine size will affect how much your license costs. Obviously, the bigger the engine, the more it costs. The working area, I think they base it off of on the boat, something like that, is also what they base it off. So a bigger working area, it costs more. Now, my boat, at a rough estimation, is probably around £2,000. And you buy units. You need enough. They'll tell you how many units you need for the boat, and as long as you've got enough units for the boat, then you will you'll be licensed. Now, I originally started, I think, with a 15-horse, and I dropped back to a 10-horse, which means I will have more units, or maybe like one more unit or something, than I need, which is fine because it still covers me for that boat. Now, for my boat and that engine, you're looking at around about £2,000. Now, it varies, and obviously it's been a while since I've had my license, but I would think it's around the £2,000. It may be a bit more, like 2.5. It all depends, because you buy units from kind of other fishermen. That's the weird thing, who are giving up their licenses. And you buy so many units, and that's what it costs. And it depends whether you have to buy a group of, say a big boat wants to sell its units, but you don't want that many, but he just wants to sell the whole block, then you'll have to pay extra to get the whole block. But then you'll have more units, and then you could sell those on to a small boat if you didn't want all the units. It's a kind of a weird thing. You'll have to look into that one a lot more detailed from the guys who deal with that, because like I say, things change and that's not my field of expertise. So yeah, so you'll need units for your boat. So you're going to need that. The other thing you're going to need to do once you want to get a license is you've got to do a load of courses, and you've got to do sort of first aid, fire, life-saving, what else is there? I can't even think now what the other ones are. Boat safety and all these kind of things. And to be honest, some of the courses are just crazy as far as I'm concerned. Some of them are very good. Obviously first aid and that, always worth going on that. Even if you know all about first aid, always worth having a refresher on that one. The fire course for me is a bit of a funny one, because the size of my boat and my engine, I'm not required to carry any fire equipment, yet I still got to do a fire course. So yeah, you can look at that one the way you want to look at that one, you know. If you've got an inboard engine, you will need to carry fire equipment on your boat. If you haven't got an inboard engine, it's just an outboard, you don't. It's all to do with what are you going to do with an outboard if it catches fire. Well, you either douse it with a wet jacket, throw it over the side, or jump over the side. That's pretty much your options. So your fire course isn't really going to help you apart from knowing to throw a wet jacket over it. Yeah, so these courses, now I know here in the UK, I'm not sure, but I could be wrong on this, but I think they were free when you do them in the UK, although don't quote me on that, I could be completely wrong on that. Somebody might be able to correct me on that one. Here you have to pay for them. And how much are the courses? Well, when I did them, which was a few years back, they were around 100 or just over £100 a course. So you're probably looking at a good £1,000, another £1,000 to do on courses. So there's that's involved. Now the other bit you will be subject to rules and regulations. And like I said, with a wet fish license or a shellfish license, you are restricted on how much you can catch of what and when, depending on your license. And that's something, again, you have to look at the time, because it will depend on your boat and what sort of license you have. Equipment you're going to have to carry, right, well for my boat I have to carry a life jacket, which is pretty much going to be the same on every boat you go on. You've got to carry one of these. The other thing you're going to have to carry, and it'll be the same on every boat, is flares. Now how many flares, and that depends again on the boat you are in. On mine it's pretty much what they would class as a coastal flare pack, because I'm a coastal fisherman, I don't go any further. I think they changed it recently. I think they changed it. I think it's because it was 2 hand flares, 2 smoke flares and 2 parachute, but I think they've changed it to 2 hand, 2 parachute and 1 smoke. I think so. I think that's it. But anyway, again, I know 4 flares. I updated 4 because I didn't need the 5th flare, because I had one I bought last year which is still well in date. And that cost me about £115 for 4 flares. So, and the worst thing about flares is, as you will see on the side here, maybe you can see it. Don't know if you can see that on the side there. They have a date on them. Now these are 2023, and so that gives you, these were bought this year, so that's 3 years, and then they go out of date, and then you've got to spend another 150 quid on more flares. Even though I've taken some of these flares, which were about 7, 8, 9 years old, that had been sitting in a boat full of water for 3 years, sitting in the garden for the next few years in a container that was full of water, and a friend took them and he fired them and they all went off, apart from one where the string broke, and he had, I don't know what it was, 5 flares that he fired off. That was on firework night. But you have to change them. I think even road flares, they don't have dates on either. And the one thing I always think that's funny is you can have somebody find a bomb which is 100-year-old or 75 years old, and they'll send down the army to blow the thing up, and yet your flare goes out of date in 3 years. Think about that one. Anyway, you have to carry flares. You should carry flares anyway. I always carry flares. Now I carry what I get in here. Now I've actually got, all of my flares are in date, because obviously I bought, like I say, New Year this year, and I do carry I fit an extra 1 or 2 of the old date ones in. I'll shove those in as well, because I know damn well they'll fire. I keep them watertight. They never get moisture in this. It's sealed, and yeah, I always carry the odd extra one that'll fit in there, because whatever fits in that container I'll stuff in. So I'll stuck in a couple of old ones as well, just so I've got a few extras. Not that hopefully I'll ever need them. That's the thing with safety equipment. You get all the safety equipment, and hopefully you'll never have to use any of it. Now, what else do we need? You will need, if I can find where mine has gone. I've lost it already. Well, let's cover something else then. You'll need a bucket, and you'll need a lanyard, and that's because my boat's so high off the water I have to throw it down and pull the water up in case there's a fire or something like that. But no, seriously, I can just lean over the side, but I still have to carry a rope with a bucket, or a bucket with a rope on. Another thing you've got to carry is a lifeboat with a rope on it. Now, again, it's one of these great big round circular plastic things that you'd throw off a beach or off a large ship. But again, the rules have never been built properly for small boats, so that's in the rules that I have to carry one of those. Even though I would never actually throw it to anybody, because I would just literally pull them out the water. And you'll have to excuse the plane, even though it's locked down. We still seem to be getting planes, quite a few planes coming in and out at the moment. Just seems today for some reason. So yeah, you need to carry or have one of those, which again, I totally disagree with that, for obvious reasons. That I would never use it. In fact, all it does is get in my way, and twice now it's almost tripped me over. And people say, oh, stick it off the back, stick it off the front. It's still on the boat, it's still causing a problem, you know. It's cluttering up the small boat, and that is more dangerous. So you see, one of the biggest safety things I would say with a small boat is keep your decks clear. You know, clear as you can. If you've got loads of clutter everywhere, it stresses you out, it gets in your way, and it's more likely to cause accidents. So try and keep your decks clear as possible. Now, the other thing that I was going to say was that VHF radio. You want one of these. So I carry one. I never use it. I charge it up. I take it home. It's still fully charged. I recharge it up and take it back out every year. I just check it that it all works, obviously, that kind of thing. And I've got it in that. It is waterproof, but I've got it in a protective thing, just a double protection kind of thing. You will need lights on your boat, depending again on your boat. My boat only requires a small white light stuck on the top, but if you've got a bigger vessel, you'll need the red and green navigation kind of things. And you'll also need a radar reflector of some description. That aluminium thing on a pole in my boat, that's a radar reflector, just so other shipping can see you if you're out in shipping lanes or anything like that. You'll need an anchor and a cable, but you should carry that anyway. Compass, again, something you should carry. Even if you've got digital stuff, you should just have even just a little map compass or something, you know. It's just a backup. It'll point you in the right direction if you really get stuck in the fog and all your electrics blow up or whatever happens, you know. Take a torch just in case you get stuck out there. Maybe your engine breaks down, you come in late, it's dark, make sure you've got a torch. And a very important thing is a medical kit. Now, you can buy medical kits from the marine place. Personally, I'd make my own, you know, because it all depends on what sort of fishing you're doing, what you're likely to have happening to you, you know. If you're going to work with just hooks, or if you're working with big machinery, you might want to, or you might be working with chemicals, I don't know. So you might want to set yourself up with your medical kit for whatever situation you are, or your environment you're fishing in. That's the best way to look at it. And yeah, and that's not finished yet, because there's this. Just an air horn, makes a lot of noise. You can grab the attention of other fishermen or anybody that's in the area, rather than have to send a flare up or a radio message. You've got that, you can just grab some attention if you need somebody to pull you out of a sticky situation. So yeah, and that's kind of it really with a license. You've just got to do all that, stick to the rules and regulations, and get a license, and then you can legally sell fish. Obviously you're limited on what you can catch to a limit, but usually those limits you won't get anywhere near it, like with a wet fish license. I mean, you might, but if you are, then you know, then you're probably going to get bigger anyway and buy a bigger boat and a bigger license. So I don't know. Like I said, I've just got it so I can basically sell fish, because obviously I catch fish, we make videos. I catch a lot of my fish, to be honest, I catch to eat. But obviously I catch a lot of extra, and I sell that, and I also throw back a lot of fish as well. When it comes to throwing back fish, yeah, I throw back more than I really should, but that's just me. I mean, that's the way I fish. I try and pick out the best fish and, you know, put back all the excess. So if you are thinking of getting a license, then you will need to contact whoever deals with the licenses. Here it's like the Sea Fisheries or the Harbour Office, or it might be your Coast Guard, I don't know. You might be able to find some information on the internet about it, but it's usually one of those groups that will know, or at least we'll be able to point you in the right direction. When it comes to your license, as in the license when you buy the units, you don't actually lose your money as such. You can resell that license or the units later on to another fisherman in the future if you give up, that kind of thing. So you haven't really lost the money in the license. Of course, you will lose the money on the courses, and it will cost you money every year or two on safety equipment, depending on the dates and if it's in date or if it needs servicing or whatever needs to be done. And of course, you've got to keep everything up to date. Now, another thing that I don't think I mentioned was, when you first get a license, you will need a boat survey. They just need to check that your boat is in good order and it passes the tests. And once that's done, you're good to go. But I think that, like I said, it's only on new boats. Once you've got a license for it, there might be a thing where they check it every so many years. I don't know on that. But anyway, you should be keeping your boat in good nick in the first place, you know. And it's not like a, I don't know what you call it, like super tight restrictions. It's just got to make sure your boat hasn't got holes in it, or, you know, or it's falling to bits, or things are going to drop off it, or basically going to sink, you know. Especially if you're taking other people out, or if you're employing people on your boat. Again, when I fish alone, and that's partly why I fish alone as well, because it's down to licenses. And of course, one thing I should have mentioned is insurance. Make sure you have insurance. Another cost. But every boat owner should have insurance, for the simple fact, even if you're not insuring yourself, if your boat breaks free from its mooring, if your boat strikes somebody or hits a kayak or a swimmer, whatever, and you get sued, you need insurance to cover for all of that. And the same if your boat breaks free, it might break free and smash into another boat, so you need insurance. In fact, where I have my boat moored, it may be down like a beach and that, and I pay for all my own moorings and stuff, as opposed to a harbour where you pay charges. But the requirement is you have to show you have insurance. But then every licensed boat has to have insurance anyway, so there you go. So anyway, that was just a little bit on licenses. Like I say, take it with a pinch of salt. Things will change. Things will be a bit different for some licenses than others. You know, basically, check out the licensing that you want, get your license sorted out, and then read the rules and regulations. You'll get papers through telling you what you're allowed to catch for that year in weight terms. You know, if like with bass and that, obviously they put restrictions on shore fishing. You only catch 1 or 2 bass, but boats, there will be a limit you can catch, like weight wise, that kind of thing. Just pay attention to that each year, and once you know all that and you know your limits and restrictions and that, then you're good to go basically, and hopefully you'll catch plenty of nice fish. Right, and one thing before we finish on the subject of licenses, you'll need one of these as well. You'll get one of these. It's a logbook, and you have to count some things, and you will definitely have to fill out the weights of everything you land. And it basically goes into a list like this. You put in the type of species, you've got obviously your boat name, your license, your name, address, all that. Then you have to put in on the top here what species it is, and then you have to have the weight of the species, how it was caught, the dates it was caught, and on some things like lobsters, you have to tell them how many you had as well. So you've got to fill out all that information as well. And there you go. That's a basic bit about boat licenses, if you're interested in getting a license for your boat.